Okay, so put a 2 in the chat if you have been in this business for 6 months or less. 6 months or less. Okay, I'm just trying to see, because there's going to be some stuff that I'm going to go over and that Kelsey's going to talk about too, that's going to go with people that are more new in the business or just kind of really getting their business going. And then I'm also going to talk about some things that I've struggled with as soon as, I don't know, 5 minutes ago. So we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff. What about if you've been in the business for 7 months to like 2 years? Put a 3 in the chat. And then put a 4 in the chat if you've been here for longer than 2 years. Okay, so a little bit of everybody. Okay, cool. All right, perfect. So first off, Kelsey, do you want to open up with anything before I get started?
Okay, thanks. I was like, I accidentally pressed mute. No, so the only thing I want to say before we hop in is really just to like open your hearts. And I think that one of the biggest problems that I struggled with in my problems was admitting that I had any. And so here's the thing, is that culture tells us that to be strong, it means that you just get over your problems. And I think that we either fall on either side of the spectrum, where so often we are either saying we don't have any problems, that's some of us, and we're fine, and we're fine, and we're fine, and then we're not fine, right? Or the second thing that happens is that we wallow in our problems, and our problems become bigger than us. And so identify which one you are as we're talking about it, and then take the advice that you need. Don't take advice about, hey, listen to all these problems that I have, if you already know all the problems you have, right? Don't take that advice. If you are a person who's like, hey, I am fine, I'm fine, then don't take the problem of get over it. Don't take that advice, because that's not the advice you need. So understand, what am I looking for when I'm coming and we're talking about the issues that I'm having? How can I connect with this, and what advice do I need to take?
Yeah, that's perfect. So I think one of the first things that I have written down, which is really funny, is that vulnerability equals weakness, which is a misconception that I used to have, thinking that, whenever I would talk about things I struggled with my team, that I was going to come across as a weak leader, that I was going to come across as somebody who didn't know what they were talking about, or that they couldn't come to me because I had issues and that I had struggles. But really, when I started to open up to my team, that's when they felt like they could have the same permission to open up to me. I actually learned this from Kelsey, because I went to her one day, and this is going to go kind of with the people who've been in for, a little bit longer. Maybe you have some people on your team, and you feel like they don't tell you their issues until it's like a full-blown chaos and like the dumpster's on fire. Okay, like everything has absolutely fallen apart, and then they're like, hey, I have a problem. And you're like, no kidding. Okay, so anybody feel like that? Just put a 1 in the chat if you've ever had that happen. Because for me, I went to Kelsey and I was like, everything's falling apart and my team won't talk to me about it. Like, they're not telling me that these things are going on. So I literally have no idea, and I'd be more than happy to help them, but they don't even tell me. So I have no idea that it's going on. And she said, when's the last time you told them about a problem that you were having? Y'all know Kelsey. I was like, shoot. Never. So I was like, I literally haven't told them about anything that I've struggled with ever. So she said, that's why they're not coming to you. They don't know that they can. They don't know that they have permission to do that. So if that's you, if you just put a 1 in the chat, ask yourself that question that she asked me. And that answered a lot of things. That helped me with a lot, because then I started to see that vulnerability was actually a strength. And that if I could take the things that I had struggled with, or the things I was currently struggling with and overcoming with my team, with my leaders in wisdom, that I could help them not only with the issues that they're going through, but also with the issues that they will encounter, because they're going to know that they can come to me with them, and they know that they're not alone. The worst thing to go through in this business is to feel like you're struggling with all these things and that it's weird. You ever felt like you struggle with something and you were like, oh, I'm just gonna keep that to myself because don't nobody else feel like that, right? I felt like that today. And there's so often, like, it's not just whenever I started this business, it's literally things I go through now, okay? So if you ever struggle with something, know that other people do too. And that's kind of what I guess birthed the idea of this Zoom. Was last night I had a girl come to me, and she's probably on here, but she's one of my new girls, and she was like, I feel like I'm struggling with this and this and this and this. What do you think? Like, is this normal? And I got the chance to say, yes, that's so normal. These are the things I struggle with, and this is how I overcame those things. And then I thought to myself, how many other people are struggling and they think that, is this normal? Is this weird? Am I the only one going through this? Maybe I'm just not cut out for this because I'm struggling with this and nobody else does. I don't want you to quit this business because you think that what you're struggling with is an anomaly. That the things that you're going through, no one else has experienced them, because we have. And I always tell my team, whatever you're going through, whatever you feel, whatever you felt, whatever you will feel, I've probably felt and gone through. So just talk to me because we can talk about it together. I might feel it differently. I might experience it differently, but I'm still going to understand what you're going through, and it's normal. So
let me add to that real quick.
Go for it.
Okay, so here's the thing, you guys. How many of you guys are like, how do I talk about this? Just like Morgan said, like, how do I be real and not be weird? Like, how do I do that? Like, how do I be honest and not be weird? But here's the thing, is that like leadership, and really in this business, it starts with leading yourself. So everybody is a leader because you're leading yourself. And I think that what you have to realize is transparency isn't really requiring you to say everything that's true. Because what honesty is that telling the truth, right? But it doesn't mean that everything that's true has to be said. I'm going to say that one more time to make sure you caught it, okay? You being transparent requires that what you say be true. It doesn't mean that everything that's true needs to be said. Okay? So what I mean by that is that if I'm talking to Morgan and I'm saying that stuff to her, right? Like she's coming to me, I might have known this for a little bit with Morgan, that like she struggles with transparency. However, you have to understand when the right place and the right time is, and that's not to confuse you, but what it is it's saying, you know, you have to be able to tell people what you know, okay, and what you see and what you feel. And sometimes we aren't willing to do that because we've been called weird in the past because we've done it at the wrong time. Right? Or we've done it in the wrong way. And so that's not to scare you at all from saying any of those things, but I really want you guys, like, how many of you guys have people on your team that you can't relate to? Like from a situational standpoint of you saying like, okay, listen, like I'm not a mom and I have moms on my team, or I am a mom and I have not moms on my team, or I'm married and I have somebody who's not married on my team. And like, I don't know how to relate to somebody who's telling me that they're overwhelmed because their spouse is mad at how much they're on their phone. Drop a 2 if this has happened to you. Not that specific instance, but an instance of something like that where you felt like, I don't really know how to lead that person. Here's what we're not getting in this. You're not understanding that they're not asking you to relate to the situation. They're asking you to relate to the emotion. If you understand that, it will change your business. It will change your leadership. It will change how you talk to people. I'm not asking you this. If I'm going to you and I'm saying to Morgan, oh my gosh, I just feel like so overwhelmed. Like Michaela is this and Deuce is this and whatever. She's not going to be like, oh my God, I totally understand. My kids are running around crazy. Morgan doesn't have kids. Okay. She's not going to do that. But what she will do is she will say, oh my gosh, I know how that feels to be overwhelmed. I've so been there before. Now here's what helped me when I was overwhelmed. Do you see the difference? I'm not asking her to connect to my circumstance. I'm asking her to connect to my emotion. And that's such a deeper thing. And so all of you guys on here who have said, you know, oh my gosh, like, I just feel like I can't relate to some people, or I can't talk to somebody, people, or connect to people on my team. You can. You have to realize that what we're talking about, what we've gone through in the business, is the emotion. We've experienced that emotion, maybe not from that same circumstance, but the emotion is still the same. The emotion of, I want to freaking quit. The emotion of, I give up. I'm throwing my phone against the wall. The emotion of, nobody wants this. The emotion of all of those negative things that can go through our head. I get it. We've been there. You want to know what the difference is? Is that we take control over what we choose to believe. Do those thoughts go through our head? They've gone through my head before. They've gone through my head. But what I've done is I've just said, I'm just choosing not to believe that. That's not even true. Nobody wants this. Then why is so-and-so signing 700 million customers? Right? And so I want you guys to understand the power of you, how powerful you are. You choose what you believe. A lot of different thoughts are going to run through your head. How many of you guys have been the crazy girlfriend before? Or boyfriend, if you're a boy on here. Drop a 2 if you've been the crazy girlfriend, FBI researcher. You're like, oh, because you made up. You literally convinced yourself in your mind that something was happening. And so you found every piece of evidence to support your theory. And then it all came crashing and burning because none of it was true. You literally just found all the evidence to support it. And so what I want to ask you to do is just change the argument you're making. Change the argument you're making to something that can support your goals, your dreams, your vision. Okay, sorry, I'm done.
No, that was so good. And that's kind of what I meant earlier too. Like, that just put it into much better words, what I was saying whenever I was like, you know, whatever you're going through, I've gone through it and maybe in a different way. Because like she said, like, even though I may not understand like the kids running around thing, I have been overwhelmed. And like, I may not be busy for the same reasons that you're busy, but I've been busy too. And I am still busy. And so that's so true. Like, I love what you said. It was perfect. And it kind of leads me right into the first thing I want to talk about, which is comparison and the belief, like believing what you want to believe. So put a 1 in the chat, because I don't want to go through all the numbers. I'm going to get confused. Just put a 1 in the chat if you've ever compared yourself. And if you don't put a 1 in the chat, there should be 271s, because every one of us is compared. Okay, let's be honest. So I compared myself as early or as recently as today. So this is not something, whenever I'm talking about overcoming my struggles, I'm not saying I overcame them. A lot of them, it's still present tense, overcoming. Okay, so this isn't coming from an ivory tower of this is what I did to overcome this. Like, I'm not sitting here telling you I'm perfect and here's how you get like me. Okay, I'm saying these are things I struggled with. Some of these things I still struggle with. Some of them I don't. I really have overcome those things. Comparison is not one of those things. I think comparison's going to be, I think as a woman, something that we're all going to struggle with forever. But it's something that you can acknowledge. And I started to realize when I do it so that I can cut off my thoughts so they don't start going off on this like rabbit hole, right? This rabbit trail. But comparison is something that actually almost caused me to quit my business. So I want to tell you about the time that I compared, like the biggest time that I like shifted my perspective in that. So I joined this business in 2014, and 4 months later, so at the very beginning of 2015, I hit Ruby. So I went Ruby, and it took me 4 months to get there. And I shared that in a Zoom a couple months ago. And for the first time, the leader leading the Zoom said, now, were you discouraged at all that it took you 4 months to go Ruby?
Last month we talked about.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. And I was like, oh, I'm not spotlighted. Hang on. Y'all, I don't know how the spotlight works. If I do this, am I still spotlighted? Okay, cool. I don't like seeing myself really big, so that's why I keep like trying to get the whole grid. Anyways, I'm like 83 years old when it comes to Zoom. If anyone wants to give me a tutorial, that'd be fantastic. So, somebody asked me if I was discouraged that it took me 4 months to go Ruby. I was like, nobody's ever asked me that. But you know what? No. Because I didn't know people went Ruby faster than that. I didn't know that people went Ruby in 2 weeks, in 4 days, in 1 day. I didn't know people did that. So was I disappointed? Mm-mm. My tail thought I was the coolest thing since sliced bread. I thought I was awesome. I thought I was like the stuff. I was like, I am, and it works, Ruby. Look out for me. Okay, I'm coming. Like, I was stoked because I didn't know anybody did it faster. But then I started to notice other top leaders, and I started to really get involved in my team page. And I started to look at other people who joined the same time as me, who quit their job because they promoted to a rank and they replaced their full-time income. And I was like, what is she doing that I'm not doing? I started thinking, is there something wrong with me? And then I started to look at their posts and the way that they posted. Then I started to post like they posted. I started to make my pictures look like their pictures. I started to use their captions because I wasn't even confident in my own anymore. I wasn't confident in my abilities at all because I had compared so heavily to these certain people. And I was watching what they were doing, and that's all that I was focused on. Have y'all ever seen that meme or GIF or whatever you want to call it? But it's like where Michael Phelps is in the pool and he's in his lane and he's swimming and he's doing the butterfly and he's like halfway out of the water. And then you see the guy in the lane next to him who's obviously not going to win, right? Because Michael Phelps never loses. The guy next to him in that lane is looking at Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps, his head is down. So if you want to win, keep your head down. And if you want to lose, look at what everybody else is doing. Because you can't run a race looking like this. You're not going to be very efficient, and you're probably going to run into something, okay? It's not going to be the most effective for you to watch what everybody else is doing and second guess what you are and who you are. Because that was at that point so long that I wasn't even only second guessing my abilities and what I was doing, I was second guessing who I was. And I didn't know if I was good enough, much less if my posts were good enough. So I started watching these people, and they were going diamond. They went double. One girl went triple, and I was still a Ruby, all from my hometown. Okay? So when I started watching them, I thought, this isn't for me. I'm just going to quit. And some of y'all know the story. I went into work one day, and I told one of my coworkers, I was like getting really frustrated. I was like, oh, this is so dumb. He was like, what is it? And I was like, I just don't know if I can do this anymore. I really wanted to be further along than I am right now. And he was like, you are not quitting this business because you are really good at it. I see all of your stuff. I see all your posts, and you're going to be one of those top people one day. You're going to be like a millionaire with this company. And now I'm married to that man. And he was right. Okay. I didn't quit because of the belief that he saw in me when I didn't see it in myself. Borrow our belief, because your enroller believes in you. We believe in you. Me and Kelsey believe in you. Don't quit on yourself. I know that you might not see the things right now that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this one day. I'm going to be able to do this. Because if you could, you would stay with it. You would stick with it, and you would do whatever it took. But if you knew the things that you were going to hit and accomplish in the future, and God also showed you the road and the path it was going to take to get there, you'd never say yes. So he only shows you little bits and pieces at a time so that you'll continue to walk and take a step in faith every single day on your journey and on your path, and yours isn't going to look the same as somebody else's. So it's so dumb to compare. When I look at it, like looking back at that situation, I'm like, why did it matter? Because maybe I would have promoted to a different rank, you know, like it doesn't matter. We're all going to get to the same place if we just keep going. And so I kept going. I earned the cruise to Mexico that year, decided to go on the cruise. That's why I didn't quit, because I wanted to go on the cruise. And so I went on the cruise. I got belief in myself. I finally thought, oh my gosh, I can do this. Not because it was super easy, but because I finally found that belief in myself. And when I started to believe, the comparison started to melt away, because I reminded myself who I was and that God had put me in this business for a reason, and that he was going to continue to guide me through that. He wasn't going to bring me to this place to leave me here. And so I stepped in faith and I stepped into that and I said, okay, God, whatever you want me to do, I'm going to do it. I'm going to work really, really hard. I'm going to put my hands to it. And I want you to bless the work that I put my hands to. So I said yes every single day while I was working 65 hours a week at 2 different jobs that I absolutely hated. And I ended up promoting from Ruby to Emerald and then Emerald to Diamond in the same day. Okay. The same day that another person that I compared myself to promoted to Triple, but that didn't dim my shine this time because I knew who I was and it changed my perspective. So when they went Triple, I got to cheer them on instead of thinking like, why didn't I go Triple, you know? And that's a really sad place to be because it leaves that fulfillment out, right? And success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. So you don't want to have that all this success without the feeling that you know that you did every single thing that you could, that God had guided you to that place to continue to walk in faith, even though you didn't know what was ahead of you, and that you're doing the things that he's called you to, not someone else. Because he didn't call me to their business, and he sure as heck did not bring me here to beat someone else to another rank. That's not what this is about. Okay? Side note, all those people I compared myself to are no longer here. They're no longer in this business. So I wasted a lot of time comparing myself to people that aren't here anymore, right? So don't get caught in the comparison trap. And I know that's so much easier said than done. So I'm not going to tell you not to compare. I'm going to tell you to notice when you compare. Be aware of it. Notice those comparing thoughts, because I didn't just say like, okay, I struggle with comparison, I'm not going to do that anymore. Boom, fix, never struggle with it again. No, I struggled with it today, but the difference between me then and me now is that me then sat there. Me then listened to those lies over and over and over until I believed them. And not only did I believe them, but if you talk to me, that's what I would start to speak, because I believed them for so long that was the thing that flowed out of my mouth. And so then I grew through self-development, through belief, through leadership, through learning other mentors, and just being in this business long enough to see that, wow, everybody's journey is different. Because the girl who went Triple the same month I went Diamond, we went Presidential the same month. Okay. So you just never know. And she's not here anymore. But you just never know. But your journey is your journey. And when you compare yourself, you're robbing yourself of the joy. The Bible says comparison is a thief of joy. So not only will you be joyless in your business, but you're also going to be so stuck because you're going to be trying to be someone else and get so wrapped up in all of these other things that don't serve you. And so then I was doing that. Now I compare myself, or whenever I do, and I stop myself and I say, no, I recognize it for what it is. I know that it's a lie, and then I choose what I believe, just like Kelsey said. I change my belief. I change what I'm choosing, because I say, no, that's not true. It's not true that this, and this, all these lies that I tell myself, it's not true. So I'm going to cut that off. And then I replace that thought with the truth. I replace that thought with a verse. I replace that thought with a quote from a leader that I admire. Or I just I fix my gaze on something different. So you can't just not compare. You have to replace it with something else. So did you want to add anything, Kelsey?
No, that was so good. I was just listening to you like, yeah, yep. No, one thing that I want to say is that comparison is really dangerous, because so often we don't actually realize that that's what's causing our lack of joy. And if you feel frustrated in your business, chances are it's because you're comparing. It's because you feel like you should be somewhere and you're shooting all over yourself. That's what I call it. You're shooting all over yourself, right? Like, I should be doing this. I should be signing more customers. I should be feeling this way. I should be this rank. I should be. And it's like, according to who? According to who? Drop a 2 in the comments if you're proud of yourself that you're still here. If you're proud of yourself that you are still in this business and that you've proven to yourself that this is something that you actually want, and not only do you want it, you're willing to work for it. Look at how much you have to be proud of. But what happens is we're shoulding. Oh, I should. And then we're losing out on the fact that we should look at how far we've come. I say this all the time, but this sermon Stephen Furtick did one time really stuck with me. And he said, we know this is where we are, and this is where we want to be, right? We have dream boards, we have visions, we have goals, we have plans, we have hopes, right? So we are here, and this is where we want to go. This is where we want to go, right? We see this, and this is all we can sometimes focus on is this gap right here from where we are to where we want to go. But what happens is we forget about this gap from where we started to where we are now. What if we lived in gratitude right here instead of, oh, I need this, I want this, I should be here. That's why comparison is the thief of joy. Now, if you are upset with yourself because your work ethic maybe isn't where you want it to be, if all these other things, then that's one issue. But if you are walking in your steps, I shared this quote with my leaders right before this. It says, if you do what you can with what you have right where you are, then God won't leave you where you are. And he will increase what you have. And I want you guys to understand and I have stalled my own progress because of comparison. I still struggle with it. I struggle with it of who I should be. And honestly, sometimes it's not even other people. It's who I feel like I should be. It's often based on me. It's like, oh, I should be this person, or I should have done this, or this like perfect person that isn't even it's not even somebody. It's this idea in my head. And I'm going to tell you, even if it is a person, you have a false illusion of what that person is. Because behind the scenes looks totally different. If you want to come over and see my hot mess life, you are more than welcome, girl. You are more than welcome. Because it is not what I post on social media. And that is not because I'm trying to be somebody else. It's just because I don't have all the time to post all the crap that happens to me. Okay. And I'm telling you this because I don't want you guys to stall yourself. I don't want you guys to convince yourself to quit. I don't want you guys to convince yourself that you should be somewhere, because God has you right where he has you for a reason. And when you can walk in that and you can do what you have with right now, what you can do the most with what you have, then you will unlock so many more blessings. They might not be on your time, and they might not be when you want them, but they will be in perfect timing for when you can sustain them. I've prayed and prayed for blessings that I've gotten that were too early. I didn't have the character to sustain the blessing. So now one of the prayers that I pray is, dear Lord, give me the character to sustain whatever blessings you have for me. Grow my character. And I know my check will follow. I know my influence will follow. I know all of that. But too many times, and it's like, I call it's like a premature baby, right? If you have a baby and you have it too soon, it's not healthy, right? It doesn't have time to grow and to develop. And that's what God is feeling about you. You right now have to grow and to develop. He might have taken somebody else through that process already, and you don't know. Maybe I was talking to my girl Brielle, and I was like, what he's taking you through right now, that's stuff that he takes triples through. That's stuff that he takes triples through. And so when you go, you're going to be able to stay. But you see somebody's one promotion picture, and you think that that's where they are for the rest of their lives. But you don't know that. Most people still aren't at their promotion picture. And so you have to know that you are being developed and you are being grown. And I know it sounds corny and I know it sounds cliche because it's like, well, yeah, it sounds easy to say when you're making ambassador money. You know what? It wasn't easy to say when I was a ruby. It wasn't easy to say when I was a diamond. It wasn't easy to say. It wasn't. And there has been times when it's still not easy for me to say right here, right now in the season that I'm going through. Right? And so just know that's that comparison or that shoulding that you have, like that is not from God and that is not what he intends you to believe. So get that out and choose to believe something else.
That's so good. That's literally, I was like writing down in my thing, like stars next to the things that I was going to cover that you were talking about, because I have things to say too about those. So one of the things that you said was that you prayed for blessings that you got too early. And I shared this with my leaders before this. And so I can kind of share the short version of the story. And this is kind of what started the conversation with Kelsey when I was talking to her about like my leaders, like no one on my team is, this was last year, at the very, very beginning of last year, so almost 2 years now. And I had a totally different team than what I have now pretty much. But I was like, no one's coming to me, right? I was talking about the vulnerability aspect. Well, in that same conversation, I was talking about just this like, that I felt in my business. And this is going to be for the people, again, I told you some of this is going to be for newbies. Some of this is going to be for the more seasoned people. This is probably going to be a more seasoned thing, but newbies, I want you to listen to this because I want you to know that if this happens to you, it's happened to me too. And that it's not weird. It's normal and it's happened to me and you're going to get through it too. But, so at that season of my life, so this is the very beginning of 2019, okay? And I'm going to tell you some stuff, and this is not to brag. It's just to tell you how bad of a mental headspace I was in, because the things I'm about to tell you are things that I wanted to accomplish for so long, and I hit them, and I was like, it doesn't feel good. Okay. So I wanted to be in the top 30 income earners, and I was for that year. For 2018, I was announced in 2019 as number 28 or 29. And so then I think it was 29. And then I had gotten the highest paycheck I had ever gotten. And to give you an idea of the number, and I have to be a little careful because we're recording this, but it was a 5-figure paycheck that started with a 3. Okay. Oh, wait. That was the paycheck. And I looked at that in my e-suite and I thought, I need more. And it wasn't coming from a healthy place of, let's do this. We got this. Like, I want more because I want everything that God has for me. It was coming from a place of discontent because the enemy had so gotten into my head about, you need the accolades. You need the praise of other people. You need, you're not worth anything if you don't have this business. And I started to place my value and my worth and my everything into who I was in this business. Everything. And so I was an awful leader. Everybody was making me frustrated. I was just really miserable. I was just a totally different person back then. I'm not saying I'm not great right now, but I'm just saying I'm not who I used to be, and praise God for that. But I hit all of these goals that I wanted, and I had just gone presidential. And I wanted all of these things, and God let me have them. He gave them to me. He blessed me with those things. But when I hit that place and I said, it just doesn't even feel good. This isn't even worth it. It became that thing that I said earlier where it was success without fulfillment. And that was the ultimate failure. And Kelsey and I talked about it, and she was like, you have to take it back and get your order right. And so I started really focusing on that, and I started focusing on putting the Lord first. And y'all, that year, I'm just going to be completely honest with you, he stripped me down from everything that I had. I lost rank. My paycheck went down to, I can't say the number, but it was a 4-figure paycheck. And so from that number to this number, and which is still great, but that was quite the drop, right? So when I went from there to there, He literally was taking everything that I was putting before him and saying, this is not why I gave you this business. No, ma'am, you have ventured too far off. This is not what I intended this for. And so he started taking all those things away. He started taking away the attention that I was getting from corporate. He started taking away all of these things. Okay, and it's not because he's a mean God, it's because he's a faithful God who is too good to leave me where I'm at. Praise the Lord, because I was not in a good place, okay? So it was painful. It hurt. It was awful. It was one of the hardest years of my life in that aspect. And then in 2020, I prayed, my word for the year was release. And I said, I'm surrendering all this to you. This is all yours. I'm releasing the worth that I place in this business. I'm releasing the value that I put in this business. I'm replacing all of these things, the validation that I get from this business and the people in it. And I'm giving that back to you because none of that really matters. And so he stripped me down back to like the roots and then started building me back up. And what I've seen in the last 2020 was that I got to get all of those things back with a new heart. So it wasn't that I didn't get to have those things. It's not that those things are bad. I got to get all of those things. If you follow me on social media, this has been a really cool week. This has been really awesome things have happened. My paychecks have been really great. But it's because I think I put my order right. And I didn't I got the blessings too soon. And then God had to take them back and say, let's redo this. He made me more like him. He stripped me away, put me back, put more layers on me for the things that he wanted me to look like him, and then gave them back and then continued those blessings. So that was one thing that I was going to talk about too. And then the other thing I wanted to say too is getting obsessed with the results instead of the process. Because that's kind of like what you were saying too. I don't remember what you said, but something that you said reminded me of this. But when you're so focused on the end results and wanting the promotion, wanting the whatever it is quickly, let's just say it's diamond. Let's say you're wanting to go diamond and you're just wanting that so badly over and over and over again. Like that's all that you're focused on. And you're like every day, why am I not hitting diamond? Why am I not hitting diamond? Why am I not hitting diamond? Instead of focusing on the results, what if you focus on the process? What if you focused on not only the things it took to be successful every day, things like host a post. Did you get all your host a post up? Awesome. That's really cool. Be proud of yourself for that. Celebrate that you showed up today. Did you get your posts up? Great. That's really cool. Do it again tomorrow, right? Did you show up? Did you message? Did you get in conversations? Did you have your chart out today? Did you show up for your business? And can you be proud of how you showed up today? If so, then there's always tomorrow. But I want you to challenge yourself to show up every day if you're not. Get that work ethic. But if you have that and you're just sitting back and being frustrated because you're just showing up and showing up and showing up and you're still not diamond, you're still focused on the results. Even though you say, I'm showing up every day, but I'm still not here, your focus is still on the there that you don't have, instead of focusing on the things that you do have. And so the other thing is I want you to focus on you. And this kind of ties in what Kelsey was talking about with like the being here and there and the gap in the middle and how far you've come. And then also with me talking about, just how you like who you are and not letting your character, not letting your blessings take you farther than your character can sustain you. And so really thinking about who is a diamond? What kind of leadership do they have? Who is going to be my best self? If I'm my best self, what am I going to look like? What areas do I need to grow in? Maybe I need to be a little more selfless. Maybe I need to be a little bit more this. Maybe I need to be a little bit more that. Clearly selfless is mine because that's the first one that popped in my head. And that's the one that I'm working on. So there's things that you have to become in order to get to that next level. And when you go through those things and you're focused on who you are becoming, the rank's going to take care of itself. You're very rarely going to have the E-suite show up as a rank and then you come in behind it with the mentality of that rank. What I mean is you're not going to go diamond and then get there here afterwards. It's going to be here first. When you get here, when you're a diamond here, and you show up every day like a diamond, you're focused on the process of who you're becoming and the work that you're doing, the paycheck follows. The rank follows. Okay? And so that's kind of what Kelsey was talking about too. That's going to take care of itself. But you've got to focus on who you're becoming every single day.
It's so good. I'm like listening to you. I'm like, yeah, exactly. So I think the only thing that I want to touch on real quick is living in the past, okay? And kind of overcoming who you feel like you are and replacing it with who you want to be, okay? Because so often I hear people say like, oh, I've just never been good at that. Me and Morgan did it today when we were talking about who's going to make the graphic. I'm like, I've never been good at making graphics. And she's like, me neither, but I'll make it. I have a template. And so like just little things like that, I catch myself still doing it. But how many of you guys have not done a TikTok or not done something in your business like cold message people or whatever? Drop a 2 if you haven't, because it's just not who you are. Right? It's just like, it's just not you. Like, oh, it's just like, I don't know. It just feels, it's just not your comfort zone, AKA, right? So I struggled not with necessarily this part, but I've been a constant procrastinator. I used to be a constant procrastinator. I used to put things off until the last minute. I also used to not be a morning person. And so I had to mentally shift some things. And I also used to be, drop a 3 if this is you, somebody who starts something and then I'm doing really good and then like I don't finish it. Right. And like whether that's a diet or working out or this business, whatever. And so I want to encourage the people on here who maybe this is something you've struggled with, like you've made progress and you've on the right track. And then for one reason or another, you've just slipped back and gone into your own old ways. Maybe that's your track record. Maybe it's like this pattern, right? And you make a positive change and it lasts for a little bit, but you don't get too excited because you know it won't last. Right? Drop a 4 if this is you. If you feel like this is something you can connect with. And now like maybe you have this voice in your head that's like, oh, this is just like how it's always been and this is just who I am. And then eventually you just start to kind of question like, why do I even try? Like, what's the point? Right? I know all of us have said that about one thing or another, right? What's the point? Like everything I do now, like I'm just going to lose what I worked so hard for. And then I'm just going to be out of practice, out of balance, out of energy, out of willpower to do it again, right? And this is the way it's just always going to be. And maybe you're doing good now, but in the back of your mind, you have this feeling like all good things must come to an end, like change isn't going to last. And so you fear you're going to slip. And I want to speak truth in life into you today. I don't care if you're religious or not. This is beyond that. You don't have to go back to who you used to be. You don't have to go back, because maybe the old you isn't really the real one. Maybe she was an imposter. And this girl or guy who's trying to come out is actually the real you. It's actually the person that God has been trying to form you into be, and the one that was living the life that you did not want, the one that was showing up and then quitting. That person was the imposter of you. And now that you are starting to expose her, she's no longer welcome here. She's no longer welcome here. She has no place in your life. Because the enemy loves to play that screwed up and beat up game, right? He'll point out all the times you screwed up, and he paints this picture of like, oh, this is what your future is going to be like too. And then shame and guilt become your companions. And you feel like you're burdened with all these times that you've screwed up, like, oh, you can't ever get it right. Oh, and this negative self-talk that we would never talk to anybody else like. We start speaking to ourselves in a certain type of way and beating ourselves up. But here, that's just what happens. And so here we are settling. I want you to think about that word. It's actually just like this really ugly word. Like I actually hate that word. It makes me like feel sick inside a little bit. Like we just settle. Like it's just gross. Like we settle for never sticking, and then our old ways become our forever ways, and the enemy tries to convince us that we're broken beyond repair, when that is such a lie. That is such a lie, that we're somehow missing something that other people have. That's not the God we serve. You're not broken. You don't have anything wrong with you. You didn't just get skipped over on a dose of something that you think you need to be successful. Nope. But here's the truth, is the weak, overwhelmed, miserable, stuck version of you is the imposter. That's not the real you. And because that's not the real you, you don't have to keep going back. If you're making progress, it's because the real you is finally coming through. The real you is showing up and making the daily decisions around here, and the real you is running the show. How about you ask her to stay? How about you just ask her to stay? What if you did that? What would happen? Because I know a lot of us feel like imposters. I felt like an imposter before. I felt like, you know what, like I don't know. Am I like fooling myself that I am this person, that I'm this leader? Like, because sometimes I feel like I struggle on the daily to even lead myself. And like, there's all these things. It's like, I'm telling other people to do things that I struggle with even doing myself. And what I want you to know is that this is the real you. You don't have to stay stuck in the broken trailer that you grew up in. You don't have to stay stuck with the broke mentality you grew up with. You don't have to stay stuck around the people that you grew up who were negative, who were just demeaning, who said you weren't worth anything. You don't have to listen to that. You don't have to. He made no mistakes when he made you. Right? It's the lies of the enemy that tell you, oh, you're fat, you'll always be fat. That's not what God said. The truth is, God said, I made your body a temple, and I gave you power to change any bad habits you need to change. That's what God said. The enemy says, oh, you're lazy, you'll never stick to anything long term. God said that you have the ability to do more than you could imagine, and nothing will be impossible for you when you partner with him. Right? The lies of the enemy tell you there's something wrong with you. Right? But God said you were made on purpose. He made you on purpose for a purpose, and you have been perfectly equipped. He did every hair. He numbered every hair. He knew every single hair. And he's equipped you. Right? And the Bible, if you go to it, and I'm not trying to get all preachy on you or at all, but I'm just trying to get this into your brain, because the Bible is full of people who were living as somebody that they were never created to be. Right? Habits formed, bitterness taken root, and they were known for a lifestyle that they would have been ashamed of. There was Saul. He was a murderer. Right? He was a murderer. He had gotten so far away from who God created him to be. And then once God got a hold of him, the real him started to emerge. The real him started to emerge. Right? But how many of us are judgy? Like, I've even been judgy when I'm reading the Bible, y'all. Like, I've even been judgy. I'm like, oh, God would use him. Like, I'm like sitting here judging them for their sin, you know? Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know? But here's the thing, is that wasn't really Saul. right? Saul had been on this angry mission his entire life, and everybody knew that you don't screw with Saul, right? But the angry murderer isn't really who he was. He was an imposter showing up, making the wrong choices. He had been deceived into believing that lesser than version of whoever God created him to be. And then God revealed his identity and changed his name to Paul. And for the rest of his days, he lived a radically different life. He lived a radically different life. And here's the thing. I know you used to be lazy. Me too. I know you've had some really bad habits. I have too. I know that you've screwed up a time or two. I'm right there with you. And I know that you've beat yourself up over all the times that you've slipped back and you've gone into your old ways, losing all of your progress. I still have a few bruises from the same thing, but once I fully understood that the old me isn't the real me, I no longer had to fear going back there. The old me isn't the real me. The old you isn't the real you. You don't have to fear going back there. Doesn't mean you won't slip up. Doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. It just means that you're not going to stay there. You might slip. You don't have to go, that's not you. So you just get up and you fix it, right? Stop obsessing. Just trust God is freeing you from a lesser than version of who you were pretending to be, right? Make friends with the real you because you never have to go back. And that's something that I've struggled with. I've struggled with that of like, oh, well, here I go again. Like I've literally like done that so many times. And if you struggle with that, like I'm just inviting you to free yourself of that because God has already freed you from it. Okay, I'm done.
That was really good. I was gonna say a quote that you said, but I already forgot it. I should have wrote it down. You're spitting fire real fast. But no, that was so good. Oh, okay, I'm really big on here. Hang on. So I mean, it's almost the end. We just want to end this. Basically, I would love to just kind of give you all a call to action because we gave you a lot of cool information. Okay, now what? Like we shared a lot of stories of things that we struggled with. Now what? I really want you to think about the things that you struggle with. And I want you to think about people that might be on your team if you do have someone on your team. How can you use the thing that you're struggling with or that you have gone through? How can you use that to help them in this season? Because if we just know a bunch of struggles that we face, like now you're probably aware of more struggles. You're like, man, I didn't even know that I was struggling with that thing. The imposter syndrome. I didn't know I was struggling with that. I didn't know I was trying to go back to the old me that wasn't the real me. I didn't know I was doing that. I didn't know I was comparing myself, but now I know I am. There's so many things we talked about, but there's no sense in you knowing those things if you don't do something about it. And the best thing you can do about it, besides recognizing it, which you can already do right now, is go help other people with it. Go use that to change other people's lives so that they can see that you struggle with the same thing too. It'll encourage them and it'll allow you the opportunity to be vulnerable, which is not weak, it's strong. It shows strength to show that you can talk about the things that you're struggling with. The things that Kelsey and I talk about, when she talks about imposter syndrome, it's not because she just knows all of this stuff and has all this wisdom, which she does, but a lot of her wisdom is because she's walked through hard road. She's walked through going through those things. You know, I can speak on the things that I've struggled with because I've gone through them. And it was painful at the time, but if you're going to go through the pain, why not use it for something? You don't want to go through the pain for nothing. So go take that pain and go use it to change someone else's life. And then I want you to think about the things that you're going through right now. And I want you to ask yourself, who is, if I'm a diamond and I want to go double, what does where I look like now? Where is the gap between where I am now in my comfort zone and where my dreams are? And I don't want you to ask yourself how to get there. I want you to open yourself up to the process that it's going to take to get there and be okay with that. Be okay with the process. Be okay with the work that you're going to have to do not only in your business but in yourself to get there. And don't allow that comparison trap to come in. And when it does, recognize it and cut it off. Switch your mindset. Replace that with the truth. Replace that with the true thought. Change what you believe. Because when you do, it's going to make all the difference. And you're going to live your life and do your business with an encouraged heart, full of joy. I don't wake up every single day just like with the birds singing and just like, I'm so excited to be a network distributor. Okay, that's not what that looks like. But it looks like that at the end of the day, even if my day didn't look how I wanted it to, I showed up and I can be happy about that. Even though my life doesn't look like someone else's, even though Kelsey's the ambassador and I'm not yet, I can still have joy. I can still celebrate her wins and she can still celebrate mine. And we don't have to sit there and compare to one another, you know? And so that's what the joy looks like. It's the joy in the nitty gritty, not when everything looks really good. And that's the definition of joy, is that happiness that's not based on your circumstances. So think about where you are in your comfort zone. Think about where you're headed, where your dreams are, and know that there's this gap that the Lord is going to fulfill and be able to fill for you. So you don't have to figure out how. And don't shrink your dreams back because you don't know how, because the resources that you have available to you right now are not the only resources that he's going to use to be able to equip you to get to where you want to go. Kelsey, do you have any last things you want to add? Oh, sorry.
No, the only thing I wanted to say is like, I was at a leadership retreat a couple weeks ago, and something that really stood out to me was so Claire, I think it was Claire, she said that her word for the year was favor, like one of the words that she picked. She said, but actually, like as I was doing research, I started to realize that favor really was protection. That's what favor is in the Bible. And so many of us think that favor means like favorite, like where God is favoring you over somebody else, right? And I know for a while that that's what I wanted, and it's so easy. I know I felt like this. I was like, gosh, like these people, like they're just more favored by God. God likes them better, or like they just have, it's just easier for them. And the reality is it isn't. It isn't. But just knowing that like when you are asking for favor, like God is protecting you, like he is protecting you. And just know that right now, whatever you're walking through, that you will get through it. And your test, like this challenge, whatever part of your life you're struggling with, and you might not even realize how bad you're struggling until you get past it, it will become part of your testimony. It will be what you speak about on Zooms. It will be something that like you get interviewed about because it was something that you really struggled with and you overcame or are still overcoming. Okay? Because he doesn't call us to be perfect. He calls us to be faithful. Dear Jesus, we appreciate you so much. We're so grateful, Lord, just for waking us up today. We're grateful that we were able to go outside, that we were able to feel just the breeze on our face, whether it's warm or cold, wherever we are. We're just so grateful that you gave us another day, that you gave us this gift. And I ask that every single person under the sound of my voice, that they just wake up tomorrow realizing what a gift it is, that every single night when we close our eyes and you wake us up in the morning, that it is an opportunity for us to be faithful. Lord, I'm so grateful that you do not ask us to be perfect, and you don't even ask us to understand, because a lot of us may be going through something right now that we don't understand, but you just ask us to trust. And we are so grateful for your grace. We're grateful for your mercies. We're grateful that they're made new every single morning. And I ask that you increase every single person's character on here, that whatever they're walking through, that they can see it as something that they're not walking through alone, because you're carrying them through it. Lord, I ask a special prayer for anybody who is struggling right now during the holiday season. Maybe it's a different holiday season for them and they've lost somebody that's close to them. I ask that you just protect them, protect their families, protect their hearts, that you bind up their hearts, and that they just feel your presence more than they normally do. I ask as we go into the new year that you give everybody clarity, that you allow us to just see what you want for you and for the kingdom that you are putting down here on earth. We love you so much, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen. I love you guys. Thanks, Morgan. You are so awesome.
You killed it. Thanks, guys. Bye.